me one more moment to share this with whoever would like to join from home. Bring out the Hebrew ones as well. No?
One. Everyone is there.
Okay. So I did. Okay. All right. We've sent out the link, so now the people who are not here have the audacity to not show up. Can join us. All right. So we are up to our seventh Mishnah. First of all, happy Hanukkah to everybody. Thank you for coming. I sent the link. It's probably being a little bit delayed, the internet connection, and so on and so forth. I have sent it. It hasn't yet been. The gods of the internet have not yet summoned it to.
They're taking their time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we are continuing as usual, and then when we are done with this lesson, before we eat dinner, we'll do a little bit of a Hanukkah game. That's a lot of fun. Avram, you already know the game, so be on his team. It's a personal sport, so you'll and don't tell them all the secrets. All right. Last week we were talking about Yoshua ben Prachia, and now we're going to talk about his partner, because as we said, we're in the time of the Zugot, so the leading of the Jewish people was done by a couple, and now we're in the second person of the couple, Nitai Arbeli. Nitai the Arbelite says, and I apologize, I see already there's a little bit of my friend ChatGPT didn't do such a great job of translating this time.
Mhm.
So if there's need for correction, I'll say it myself. But Nitai the Arbelite, that's so far so good. He says, distance yourself from a bad neighbor. Do not associate with a wicked person, and do not despair of retribution. Okay, so Nitai the Arbelite is continuing on what we said. What we were talking about last week. We were talking about
Having a friend.
yes, social encounters. Okay, that's the it's nice to hear myself sometimes.
It's not nice.
No, I hear myself way too often. So we were talking about social encounters, and Nitai the Arbelite is continuing on what Yoshua ben Yah was saying. Here, I'll just read out what we were discussing last week. Yeshua ben Prachia would say, make for yourself a Rav and buy yourself a friend and judge every person favorably. Okay? So we ended the Mishnah of um, of last week, and the sayings of Yeshua ben Prachia was saying you should judge everyone favorably. Comes Nitaya Arbeli and says, hold on. There has to be a boundary. There has to be a limit where you say, this is the red line. Other than that, after that, this person is um, not worthy of my favorable judgment, right? We also we've fine-tuned that last week, if you remember, that we said it's about ha'adam, okay? And here comes Nitai the Arbalite and says it full out. He's saying, distance yourself from a bad person. Okay, so in Hebrew, hachek mishachen ra, and I think here's where the translation is. It's not just distance yourself from a bad person; it's distance yourself from a bad neighbor. And we're going to delve into that a little bit more of why specifically a neighbor, and um, do not associate with a wicked person. So if there's someone who's no, he brought the cookies only for himself. That's not very nice of you, sweetie. You want to bring out cookies for everyone? Everyone wants cookies now. And he's saying to distance yourself, we said, from a bad neighbor, and not to associate with a bad person. And he ends it with something that seems a little bit detached from what he was saying. Al tityash min hapuranut. Okay, so do not despair for retribution. If you see something bad happens, don't despair. Okay? Now, let's break this down one by one. So, why is he saying distance yourself and not to associate, right? Distance yourself sounds even harsher than not to associate with someone. Okay?
Yeah.
Now here, it's just a bad neighbor. He might be an overall okay person. I'm saying if he's a bad neighbor, it's probably not the best person in the world, but it's not necessarily the worst person in the world. And he's saying here to distance yourself. So you see that person, run the other way. That's what distance yourself means, right?
Yeah.
Okay? And then from a bad person, who we say, this is a bad person, he doesn't say distance yourself. He says, don't associate with him, all right? Don't go out of your way to be nice or to try and make a connection with this person. Wouldn't you imagine it's the other way around, that the person that's sort of okay, I should, fine, not associate with him, but the person who's bad, I should, I see him and I cross the street to the other sidewalk just not to encounter him? Isn't that what you would expect? This is the part where I want to hear your thoughts. Why do you think he says it the other way around? Is what would be, we'll say, our first initial thought of.
First of all, who's a bad neighbor?
Who's
a bad neighbor?
Who is a bad neighbor?
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't specify.
Yes, I think.
But it does specify a bad neighbor, and the words used are distance yourself from a bad neighbor.
Yes. But we need to understand who is a bad neighbor, what he does, what are the qualities of a bad neighbor.
I think what we should be asking is that, it's a bit confusing, and we told that we should judge everybody favorably.
We are, and that's how I started.
Yeah.
That's where we started. We said you
yes.
should judge everybody favorably. That was Yoshua ben Prachia talking. Comes Nitai the Arbalite and says, listen, you should judge everyone favorably, but to a certain extent. Okay, once the person is a bad person, he's not worthy of your favorable judgment, and that's also what we said last week, if you remember correctly. We were discussing that also last week. It's like, should we judge everyone? Even a mass murderer, the person who did the The shooting in Bondi Beach, we judge him favorably? No.
No.
Okay, we also showed a whole bunch of places where someone, you have even the thought he's coming with malintention, or someone who comes to murder you. The command is to get up and to kill him first. So that doesn't sound like favorable judgment to me, right?
Yeah, it doesn't.
So there has to be a line, and comes Nitai the Arbalite and says that line in a more in more of a clear color, and he's saying, "Listen, you should distance yourself from a bad neighbor, and don't associate yourself with a bad person." But now we're asking, why wouldn't it be the other way around? Why should I, the bad neighbor, maybe he's not the most, he plays loud music in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That's a bad neighbor, right?
Yes.
That's someone. But why should I distance myself? But all in all, he could be okay. He can help, old ladies cross the road, and he can be. There are other attributes that he might. Isn't he worthy of our favorable judgment? He's only a bad neighbor. Why are we distancing ourselves from him, as opposed to not associating with him, and more so the person who's we're saying this is a bad person. Okay, that's the title. This is a bad person. It doesn't say distance yourself. It says don't associate. All right, so don't go out of your way.
In fact, it's using the wicked
Wicked,
person.
wicked than
Wicked
bad.
and bad.
It's different.
Wicked sounds more worse than
Yes.
the bad one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so just enhancing my question. Why is that?
Whoa.
I'll let you think about it more, and we'll see where Nitai the Arbalite got his this saying from. He didn't come up with it completely on his own. It was his philosophy of life. But as we see Psalms, so David the Melech begins off Sefer Tehillim with Ashrei Ish Asher Lo Halach Ba'atzat Rishayim. Okay, so the person who distances himself or doesn't follow the way of the wicked,
The wicked, yeah.
he happy is not a good translation. Rather, he's blessed. Okay, so that's more of the same atmosphere of words, and the same is said by his son Shlomo HaMelech. He who walks with the wise becomes wise, but a companion of fools will suffer harm. Okay, so also here, talking about the environment you self yourself in. If you surround yourself with good people, you're going to be a better person. If you surround yourself with bad people, okay, so a bad neighbor, you will suffer harm. All right, and now going back to our question, why is it that a bad neighbor seems to be worse than a wicked person?
I think a wicked person can lead you to do wicked things.
Okay.
Yes. So probably you can come and like the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent.
Mm-hmm.
So the serpent comes and tells Eve to eat from the trees of knowledge, and then God actually gives judgment to. He does not actually judge the serpent. Like he automatically gives a sentence to the
Punishment
serpent.
right away.
Punishment.
Okay.
So I think it's in the same idea. Like if you follow the wicked person, eventually you will do wicked things.
Fine.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking. Then why aren't we said to be distant? It just says don't associate yourself. Okay, don't associate sounds to me, fine. Don't be the most friendliest person to this bad person, but it doesn't say distance. Distance is, as I said, you see that person even getting close, you run away. It's a court order of you have to keep a certain distance. All right, so why is that? Think of the encounter, okay, between your neighbor and just an overall bad person. Think of it, and then you'll say, oh, wait a minute. The neighbor, what's the significance of the neighbor?
It's near you.
He's near you, exactly.
Permanently
It's
near
a
you.
daily encounter.
Yeah.
As opposed to a bad person, you might meet, once a week, once a month, once a year. Thank you, sweetie. Okay, as opposed to that, a bad neighbor is something you'll meet every day.
Your neighbor is always there, is around you.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
do we
Even if you don't necessarily meet him in the hallway or,
Yes,
or
yes.
something, the atmosphere you're in and the presence of this bad person is constant. As opposed to a bad person who, as I said, it can be an occasional encounter. A bad neighbor is much worse because it's a daily encounter. And therefore, the encounter or the command is the advice. I wouldn't say command. The advice is distance yourself from a bad neighbor. You have a bad neighbor, move away. Don't even try to butt heads with him and change him. Move away. All right? Because you're just going to
Put a
find
fence.
yourself. You're just going to find yourself in an ongoing loop and a never-ending battle between you and this bad neighbor. And more so, it's in the place where you're supposed to be the most safe. It's in your own home, right? That's what a bad neighbor is. Now, I'm going to say that, and we'll see avot Rabbi Natan who broadens this a little bit more. Distance yourself from a bad neighbor, whether a neighbor at home, a neighbor outside, or a neighbor in the field. This teaches that an affiliation come only upon the house of the wicked. Afflictions come only upon the house of the wicked. The sins of the wicked cause the wall of the righteous to be destroyed. How is that? A wall between the wicked and the righteous develops an affliction in the house of the wicked, on the wall between him and the righteous, and so the wall of the righteous is demolished due to the sin of the wicked. Rabbi Ishmael, son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, says, woe the wicked, woe his neighbor. The sins of the wicked cause the wall of the righteous to be destroyed. Okay, so if you have a bad neighbor, and you have your neighbor, you have you share a wall, most likely.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you don't share a wall, you share a fence or something else.
It's on
There's,
the other side,
as
you're
I
on
said,
this side, yeah.
exactly. But because he's your neighbor, you're sharing a border.
Yeah.
And that border will be damaged by this wicked person, by this bad neighbor. All right? In this case, it's talking about tsarat, okay, which was a sort of disease done or some sort of affliction done for bad deeds, mostly lashon hara. And it was possible to also get it on your house, not just a person's skin, but it would also appear on houses.
On the
And
walls, yeah.
exactly, and the Torah commands that if this affliction happens to appear, then what do? You break down the wall. Everything that has this affliction, you break it down, okay, and you have to rebuild the wall. So here he's bringing a physical
Damage.
consequence
Yeah.
of how having a bad neighbor can affect your house. You're saying, wait a minute, I'm a righteous person. My wall did nothing wrong, but it's a shared wall, and it'll end up being broken because of the behavior of this bad neighbor. And continues avot Rabbi Natan, do not associate with the wicked, teaches that a person should not associate with a bad person, nor a wicked person. For we find that Yehoshaphat associated with Achav, and Achav we know was a king of Israel, but he wasn't a very righteous king, and went up with him to Ramoth Gilad, and word came against him from God. Again, he associated with Achaziah, and they made ships at Etzion Gaver, and the Lord broke his works, and it is said, when you join with Achaziah, the Lord broke the works, and the ships were wrecked. Likewise, we find. All right. Anyway, he's bringing here a lot of examples where we see that not necessarily or there was a wicked person together with a righteous person working together, and still Hashem decided to give punishment for both of them. Why is that? Because of the actions of the wicked person. He deserves to be punished, and you might be righteous, but you're not righteous enough to save the punishment from this wicked person. Okay, so yes,
This is the kind of life we lead. Not
But
everybody.
this is more of like a business association.
Yeah,
It's like
not everybody will come across
you
this.
associate with somebody, and this somebody is wicked. Therefore, whatever you do, this person is going to be cursed somehow. Like,
right. I think at the end, what he's saying here is that, as opposed to the neighbor who he said, stay as far away as you can. Sometimes you're going to encounter wicked people,
Yeah.
But that's what he's saying. Is like, don't not encounter them. That's not the advice. The advice is don't associate. Don't get too close. You see a wicked person, someone who's behaving not right. Just no, it's not saying run away. It's just like
your colleagues.
keep the conduct to minimum.
Yeah.
Exactly. You see
These
a
are
colleague who's just not fun to be around, just stay away.
These are
Okay.
my colleagues.
Yes.
It's people you can't avoid. It's people you're working with.
Right, but that's not what it's saying. A colleague is not a neighbor.
Yeah.
Maybe.
and this is what I was about to ask. Like the person whom you meet like every day,
Yeah.
who is very very wicked, and the neighbor, for example, you do not like encounter. You just, for example, meet in the hallway or just in the neighborhood. Who's more dangerous than the other?
That's a great question.
Yes.
I'll let you answer that question. What do you think?
I don't know. Probably, I think this the person I meet like every day. Yes.
The person who's closest to
Yes.
you.
Here, look at the
Cameras.
first sentence of Avot Rabinatan. What does he say? Whether a neighbor at home,
Yes.
meaning your physical home,
Yes.
you have a neighbor.
Neighbor outside.
A neighbor outside.
Neighbor in the
What's a
field.
neighbor outside? Or a neighbor in the field?
Yeah.
A neighbor in the field is a colleague,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you're not physically working in the same field, you're working in proximity to each other. That's what he's saying. Is like you have a bad colleague, distance yourself. Now you're saying, wait a minute, how do I distance myself? That's a great question. So obviously this is very subjective in every place, but the advice is to distance yourself from that person. Okay, so even if you have a colleague who you see as a wicked person, he's a bad neighbor, ignore him. Walk away.
We used to have like.
You see him walking down the hallway, go back to your office, act yourself busy. There's a lot of ways to do it. But steer clear of this.
And people sometimes happen to be with you at the time. You distance yourself, that person is with you there. It becomes a bit challenging at times.
Yeah,
Life is challenging.
like where we work. We work with the
Wicked.
people.
Yeah.
We load the goods in. You can't do it by yourself.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But still the advice remains of distancing yourself. So when you work with someone like this, the question is, how much do you open up? How much do you share with such a person? All right? You see this person is bad. You see he's, definitely you'll see in the long run, you see this is a bad influence for you. But once you keep the conduct to minimum,
It's okay.
yes,
This
this
is
is,
what I do.
But
yeah.
don't you-
I mean,
but don't you still complain? I keep my distance. There are these people.
Yeah, the problem is, okay, you know what they do. You know where they your grandparents to get this
And then,
chance.
Yeah,
And
and then when they give you money, that money does not help you.
It's so
It becomes like a tax.
oh, but that's what I'm
complicated,
saying.
yeah.
Distance yourself means
you
don't
talking
even
about
take from him anything.
yeah.
And again, it's bad to
What's that?
it's bad to ignore that neighbor.
If it's a bad person, if it's a bad neighbor, I don't think it's bad to ignore. I think it's actually on the contrary.
For your neighbor, you can ignore.
Ignore,
You should ignore, of
I put a
course.
fence.
Put a
So they
distance.
stay on their side, they stay on their side.
Exactly. If it's a bad neighbor,
But
distance
for a
yourself.
colleague,
What?
but for
You
a
cannot help this person. You cannot tell the person to change.
No, that's not what
No,
Nitai
no, no,
Arbalite's
no.
advice is. He's not
Even
saying
that's not
try to
even
change.
my-
You know, don't even judge favorably.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see, this is a bad neighbor, okay? And I think at the end, a bad neighbor is also something very subjective. It's also something very up to you to define, because there's no, list of guidelines of finding a bad neighbor. No, it doesn't say that. All right? You feel that the presence of this person is bad for you, put a distance, walk away. Ignore him as much as you can. Now, obviously, someone is you have to work together, you have to work together.
Yeah.
Okay, your neighbors.
For a neighbor,
Fine,
I think it's
but-
fine. I stand my
No, but it's
ground.
also true for a colleague.
Yeah. But for
The neighbors
colleagues,
can be
then I'm
lucky.
telling you, the heavy things. So you need to hold one side, go in, pull.
All right, but again, maybe keeping your distance can be, keeping your conduct between each other completely professional and not sharing any other information. You say the good morning when you meet him at the beginning, and that's it. That's all you have to do. And if he comes, okay, shkoyach.
Yeah, so the kind of an environment that we are working in, so this is what we encounter day in, day out.
Yeah.
This is our life.
Yeah.
Well, this is apparently, it's nothing new. This
Yeah.
is written 2,000 years ago and still relevant today. Astonishing. Okay, so I think we've touched on the. I think we've touched on the second question of that I put on the bottom. I think we've touched on that enough.
The bottom one is there a difference between a bad neighbor and
No. How can we apply this advice in the modern world?
Yeah, that
Where we are
one
exposed
also.
to a diverse environment, right? We were talking just about that. Ignore him as much as possible. Don't become friends on Facebook. That's part of putting a distance.
Yeah.
Okay, don't. Just don't. He sends you a friend. Ignore.
Even when they send a friend request.
Yes, if they send a friend request, you're seeing this is a bad neighbor for you. Put that distance. Make that fence.
The way they never give up.
Fine.
Don't give up. Not give life.
So, touching on the last, do not despair of retribution. I'll
That one, how do you?
Al tityayesh min hapughanut. Okay? So this can be translated in two ways, or it can be understood in two ways. Al tityayesh min hapughanut. So there's two ways to understand this. One is you see bad things happen. Oh, don't worry. Don't give up. Okay? That's one way. But another way to interpret this, and I think it's even more profound and more true to what we're talking about, is you see all this bad all around you.
Yeah.
All right, you shouldn't give up. All right, you should still hold your ground and say, no, this is where I draw the line. This is the distance I'm putting between this bad influence around me. All right, so I think what Nitai the Arbalite is trying to say with that last saying is that he understands that this is a very difficult task, but he's still saying you have the ability to do it. Okay, so don't give up. All right, don't despair. All right, you see this bad influence around you, you will find a way to overcome it.
And again,
But this one-
Without that bad influence.
this is what I'm wondering. Even do not despair of retribution. I'm thinking if somebody keeps on harming me throughout. There's nothing much I can do.
I think it's more.
And
of
then
like
I think that somewhere down the line, God will work something for it.
exactly.
Yes.
That's this
Everyone
what
will
my
get what they
understanding I'm
deserve.
getting.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Is it right?
that as we said, that's a
That's what I
One
think
has
also.
to suffer. I was trying to wonder why does God allow such things? to
People
happen?
they're harming you.
That's the one.
ask him.
He does not answer me. So I'm asking you, you may have an answer.
Oh, I'm just offering you an opportunity to maybe look at the things in a different way. And usually, when we reflect on things, we usually understand more how what we then thought was suffering, or every hardship we encounter in life, brought us stronger to a challenge that we are handling today, and showed us that we can overcome. Okay, and I think that's
It's
part
not
of
a good feeling, also. Yeah,
So asked.
it's
Thank
difficult.
it's terrible.
Okay, so that's where we're gonna end our shir today. Now,
Interesting.
yeah, it's
Interesting.
very short but very deep.
Precise.
So thank you for all those who've joined at home. Those who are here will enjoy also dinner, but beforehand, we'll light